The sky turned purple on a Tuesday afternoon, and everything humans had built stopped working. Dr. Amara Okonkwo stood in her laboratory in Lagos when it happened. One moment, her computer screen showed years of research on self-healing materials. The next moment, every screen went black. Every light died. Every machine fell silent. She heard screams from the street below as cars stopped moving and phones became useless. Pieces of glass and metal. Through her window, she saw them. Massive ships hung in the sky like dark clouds made of metal. They stretched from horizon to horizon, blocking the sun. Smaller craft descended from them, floating on technology that made no sound. Across the world, the same thing happened at the same moment. In Houston, Jin Weaver watched his NASA workstation die. In Amman, a teenager named Yusuf Hadid held a drone he had been building. It would never fly now. In Tokyo, London, Sao Paulo, and Mumbai, 8 billion humans watched their world go dark. The aliens called themselves the Vethrani. They did not come with weapons drawn or soldiers marching. They came with a single message, broadcast from speakers that floated above every major city. "People of Earth," the voice said. It spoke in every language at once, which should have been impossible. "You have been judged. Your species has grown too fast. Your technology has advanced beyond what is safe. The Galactic Collective has decided that you must be corrected." Amara stepped outside her building. Thousands of people filled the streets, all looking up at the floating platforms. On each platform stood tall, thin beings with gray skin and large black eyes. They wore flowing robes that seemed to move on their own. Their faces showed no emotion. The voice continued. "We have removed your technology. All of it. Every circuit, every battery, every processor on your planet is now dead. This is not a punishment. This is protection. You will learn to live simply. You will learn your place. In time, you may be allowed to rejoin the galactic community." Someone in the crowd threw a rock at the nearest platform. It bounced off an invisible shield and fell back to the ground. The Vethrani did not react. "Resistance is not possible," the voice said. "We have done this to 17 species before you. The pattern is always the same. First, you will panic. Then you will despair. Finally, you will accept. We will wait." The platforms rose back into the sky. The great ships remained, casting shadows over entire continents in the days that followed. The panic came just as the Vethrani predicted. Hospitals lost power. People trapped in elevators screamed for help. Planes fell from the sky. Ships drifted without navigation. The death toll in the first week reached millions. But something else happened too. Something the Vethrani did not expect. Amara gathered her neighbors on the third night. They sat in a circle by candlelight, faces lit by flames instead of screens. "I am a scientist," she told them. "I studied materials and chemistry. I know how things work. Not just how to use machines, but why they work. The principles behind them." An old man named Emeka nodded slowly. "My grandfather built things with his hands. He taught me some of it before he died. I thought those skills were useless in the modern world." "They are not useless now," Amara said. "Nothing is useless now." In Houston, Jin Weaver sat in his dark apartment and thought about the moon landing. His grandfather had worked on that mission. They had sent humans to another world with computers less powerful than a modern calculator. They had done the impossible with slide rules and determination. He found a notebook and a pencil. For the first time in years, he began to draw by hand. He sketched water filters made from sand and charcoal. He designed simple machines using only mechanical parts. He remembered everything he had learned about physics and engineering, and he realized something important: the Vethrani had killed their devices. They had not killed their knowledge. In Ammon, Young Yusuf sat in his room and stared at his useless drone. His mother brought him food, worried about him. But Yusuf was not sad. He was thinking. He took the drone apart. The electronic pieces were dead, but the frame was still good. The propellers could still spin if something pushed them. He began to experiment with rubber bands and springs. By morning, he had built a small catapult that could throw a stone 20 meters. It was primitive. It was simple. But he had built it with nothing but his hands and his mind. The Vathrani set up monitoring stations around the world. Their commander, Sirith Velkan, reviewed reports from every continent. He had overseen the pacification of 3 other species. He knew what to expect. The humans are experiencing standard collapse behavior, his assistant reported. Riots in major population centers. Resource conflicts beginning. Leadership structures failing. Sirith nodded. Good. How long until full regression? Based on previous species, we estimate 2 to 3 years for a complete social breakdown. They will be primitive farmers within a generation. Sirith looked at the screens showing Earth's surface. Fires burned in some cities. Dark crowds moved through streets. It all looked familiar. But in Lagos, Amara had already organized her neighborhood into work teams. They were digging wells by hand and building clay ovens. In Houston, Jin had connected with other engineers through messages carried by runners. They were already sharing designs. In Amman, Yusuf had taught 5 other teenagers how to build simple weapons and tools. They called themselves the Makers. Across the planet, in 10,000 places, humans did what humans had always done. They faced an impossible problem, and they started looking for solutions. The Vathrani saw chaos and assumed it meant defeat. They did not understand that for humans, chaos was just the beginning. They did not know that humanity had crawled out of caves and conquered a planet, long before electricity existed, on the first night of darkness. While the Vathrani watched and waited for humanity to break, a grandmother in rural China taught her grandchildren how to start a fire with sticks. A professor in Germany pulled ancient books from library shelves and began reading by candlelight. A farmer in Kansas remembered how his ancestors had lived and started planning. The aliens had taken away everything humans had built. They'd forgotten that. Humans were builders. And in the darkness, humanity began to remember who they really were. 6 months after the darkness began, the Vathrani started to notice something strange. Commander Sirith stood in his observation room high above the African continent. His screen showed images captured by floating drones. He had expected to see starving populations and collapsed cities. Instead, he saw something that made him deeply uncomfortable. He saw organization. In Lagos, Amara Okonkwo had transformed her neighborhood into a center of learning. Every morning, hundreds of people gathered in an open square while she taught them. Not how to use machines, but how machines worked. The physics of levers, the chemistry of purifying water, the mathematics of building structures that would not fall. Knowledge is not in the device, she told her students. Knowledge is in the mind. They can take our tools, but they cannot take what we understand. Her students went home and taught others. Within 3 months, her lessons had spread across the entire region. People built water wheels using wood and rope. They created clay pipes to carry clean water from rivers to villages. They made simple pumps that a child could operate. None of it required electricity. None of it could be stopped by the Vathrani pulse. Sirith watched the footage with growing concern. This is not the standard pattern, he said to his assistant. They are just playing with primitive tools, his assistant replied. It changes nothing. But Sirith was not so sure. In Houston, Jin Weaver had established something remarkable. Using only runners who carried handwritten messages, he had connected with engineers across North America. They developed a code, simple symbols that could convey complex ideas. A network grew, Slow but steady. Jin spent his days drawing. He filled notebook after notebook with designs. Water filtration systems. Mechanical calculators made of gears and levers. Wind-powered machines that could grind grain or pump water. Every design used only materials that humans could make by hand. We went to the moon. He reminded his growing team of followers. We did it with mathematics done on paper and machines built by human hands. We have forgotten how capable we are without computers. It is time to remember. His design spread through the runner network. In one city, engineers built his water filters and saved thousands from disease. In another, they constructed his wind machines and began producing flour again. Each success brought more people to the cause. The Vethrani did not notice. Their sensors looked for electronic signals, radio waves, digital communications. They found nothing. They assumed the silence meant humanity was dying. They were wrong. Young Yusuf Hadid had become something of a legend in Amman. His workshop attracted teenagers from across the region. They came to learn what he had figured out in those first dark days. That human hands could build anything if the human mind understood the principles. He taught them to make crossbows with enough power to punch through metal. He showed them how compressed air could launch projectiles faster than any bow. He built pneumatic systems that could lift heavy weights using only pumps and tubes. The Vethrani think technology means electronics, Yusuf told his students. But technology just means using knowledge to solve problems. Our ancestors built pyramids and crossed oceans. They did not need computers. His students called themselves the Makers. They spread across the Middle East, then into Europe and Asia. Everywhere they went, they taught others. The movement grew quietly, invisibly. Beneath the notice of the alien observers, Sirith requested additional monitoring resources. His superiors in the collective denied him. Earth is a solved problem, they told him. You are wasting resources. The humans will collapse on schedule. They always do. But the humans were not collapsing. They were adapting. In the mountains of Switzerland, a group of scientists established a hidden community. They had carried thousands of books from university libraries, loading them onto carts pulled by horses. In their mountain refuge, they studied by candlelight and began rebuilding scientific knowledge from first principles. They rediscovered techniques that humanity had abandoned centuries ago. Mechanical computers designed in the 1800s, never built because electronics made them unnecessary. Chemical processes that required no electricity. Engineering methods that relied on human skill instead of machine precision. We became lazy, one of the scientists admitted. We let machines do our thinking. Now we must think for ourselves again. And we are discovering that human minds are more powerful than we remembered. Communication networks spread across continents. Not electronic networks, but human ones. Drum signals carried messages across Africa, the same methods used for thousands of years. Mirror flashes connected mountain communities in South America. In Asia, teams of runners carried coded messages along ancient trade routes. The Vethrani saw none of it. Their technology looked for signals that did not exist. Their algorithms searched for patterns that humanity had abandoned. They were blind to what was happening right beneath them. Amara traveled to meet with other leaders, journeying by horse and boat across Africa and into Europe. Everywhere she went, she found the same thing: humans working, learning, building. The despair of the first weeks had transformed into determination. They expected us to give up, she told a gathering of scientists in Spain. They have never met a species like ours. We do not give up. We find another way. Jin Weaver made contact with the Swiss community through a chain of messengers that stretched across the Atlantic Ocean. When he received their reports of mechanical computer designs, he wept with joy. We can calculate trajectories, he wrote back. We can navigate by the stars. We can build machines that think without electricity. Tell me more." The exchange of knowledge accelerated. Ideas flowed along the human networks, evolving and improving as they spread. Each community added their own innovations. Each breakthrough was shared with all the others. Sirith filed another concerned report. Again, it was ignored. "You are paranoid," his superior told him. "Primitives cannot threaten us. Let them play with their sticks and stones. When they are ready, we will integrate them into the collective as servants. It is the natural order." Sirith ended the communication and looked down at Earth. In the darkness below, humans were lighting fires. Not just for warmth or cooking, but for signaling. He watched patterns of light flash across a continent, carrying messages he could not read. For the first time in his long career, Commander Sirith felt something he did not recognize at first. It was fear. 3 years after the stripping, humanity had changed completely. But the Vethrani still did not see it. Amara Okonkwo stood before a machine that had taken 2 years to build. It filled an entire room, a complex arrangement of gears, cams, and levers made from bronze and steel. When operators turned the great wheel at its center, the machine came alive with clicking and spinning. It was a mechanical computer. Not as fast as the electronic ones the Vethrani had killed, but fast enough. It could calculate complex equations. It could predict the movements of stars. It could solve problems that would take humans weeks to work through by hand. "Beautiful," said Jin Weaver, who had traveled across the ocean by sailing ship to see it. "Absolutely beautiful." He had aged in the 3 years since the darkness. His hair had turned gray and his face had grown thin, but his eyes still burned with the same fire. He had spent those years turning ideas into reality, and now he carried notebooks filled with even greater designs. "We have built 7 more like this one," Amara told him. "In South Africa, in Egypt, in Kenya. The network is growing." "Same in the Americas," Jin replied. 12 computing centers now. We are sharing calculations, passing results through the messenger networks. It is slow, but it works. The mechanical computers were just the beginning. Across the planet, humans had rebuilt their civilization on entirely new foundations. In Germany, engineers had constructed factories that ran on water power and steam. Massive wheels turned in rivers, driving systems of belts and gears that could shape metal, weave cloth, and produce tools. No electricity needed. The Vethrani sensors detected nothing unusual. In Japan, scientists had developed new chemical processes. They could make medicines, explosives, and materials using only heat, pressure, and careful mixing. Their laboratories used no powered equipment, just skilled hands and deep knowledge. In Brazil, farmers had revolutionized agriculture. Without machines, they had returned to intensive hand farming. But they combined ancient techniques with modern understanding of soil chemistry and plant biology. Their yields exceeded what they had produced before the stripping. Yusuf Hadid, now a young man with a beard and serious eyes, had become the leader of the global maker movement. His workshops existed in every country, training young people in the art of building without electronics. "The human hand is the most versatile tool ever created," he taught his students. "It can build anything the mind can imagine." The Vethrani forgot this. We must never forget it again. His latest project was his most ambitious yet. In a hidden valley in Jordan, protected by mountains that blocked Vethrani scanning, the makers had constructed a testing ground. Here they built weapons. Not electronic weapons. Not energy weapons. Simple, brutal, effective weapons that any human could make with basic materials. Crossbows that could punch through Vethrani armor. Catapults that could bring down their floating platforms. Chemical grenades that burned with fire no force field could stop. "They think we are helpless," Yusuf said, watching a test launch send a heavy bolt through a metal plate. They will learn otherwise. The Vethrani had grown complacent. Their monitoring of Earth had become routine, almost lazy. Commander Sirith still filed his concerned reports, but no one listened. The humans had not collapsed, but they had not threatened either. The collective considered Earth a minor matter, barely worth attention. This was exactly what the humans wanted. In the Swiss mountains, the scientific community had grown into a hidden university. Thousands of people lived there now, all dedicated to a single goal: understanding everything the Vethrani had and figuring out how to match it. Without electronics, they studied captured Vethrani equipment, brought to them by brave humans who had stolen it from monitoring stations. The alien technology was advanced, but it followed the same laws of physics as everything else. It could be understood. It could be countered. Their shields are electromagnetic, one scientist reported. They stop energy weapons and fast-moving projectiles. But slow-moving objects pass through. And once something is inside the shield, it can move fast again. This information spread through the messenger networks within weeks. Across the planet, makers began designing weapons specifically to defeat Vethrani defenses. Amara made another journey, this time to meet with leaders from every continent. They gathered in a hidden valley in the Himalayas, a place so remote that no Vethrani drone had ever scanned it. 200 of humanity's best minds sat together for the first time. "We have spent 3 years preparing," Amara told them. "Our networks span the globe. Our workshops can produce weapons. Our computers can calculate what we need. But we are still missing something. We need a way to strike at them directly. We need to reach beyond Earth." Jin Weaver stood and unrolled a large sheet of paper. On it was drawn a rocket. "This is possible," he said. "Chemical propulsion, no electronics required. Mechanical guidance using gyroscopes and optical systems. It will not be elegant. It will not be efficient. But it will fly." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what he was proposing. "We cannot defeat the Vethrani in space," someone objected. "Their ships are too powerful." "We do not need to defeat their ships," Jin replied. "We only need to destroy one thing: their communication relay near the moon. If we cut them off from the collective, they cannot call for reinforcements. They become isolated, vulnerable." Amara nodded slowly. "How long to build such a rocket?" 2 years, if we have the resources. We will need materials from every continent. We will need thousands of workers. And we will need to keep it completely hidden from Vethrani senses. "Then we begin," Amara said. "Spread the word through the networks. This is our purpose now. Everything we have built leads to this moment." The leaders returned to their continents and began the work. In hidden shipyards on a remote Pacific island, construction started on humanity's first post-stripping spacecraft. Workers labored day and night, building by torchlight, using only hand tools and mechanical equipment. The Vethrani saw increased activity on Earth, but did not understand its meaning. Sirith watched his screens and felt the fear growing in his chest. The humans were doing something. He could not see what, but he knew it was coming. He filed one more report, more urgent than all the others. "The humans are not broken," he wrote. "They are preparing. I recommend immediate military action before it is too late." The collective dismissed his concerns. Earth was not a priority. The humans were primitives. They would soon learn how wrong they were. 5 years after the stripping, Commander Sirith finally got his proof that it came from a scout named Varric, a young Vethrani who had been assigned to survey the mountains of Europe. His patrol took him over a region that should have been empty, a range of peaks too high and cold for primitive humans to inhabit. But Varric saw lights. He descended for a closer look and found something that made his blood run cold. A city existed in the mountains, Not a small camp, but a true city with stone buildings, workshops, and thousands of inhabitants. Smoke rose from forges. Great wheels turned in mountain streams. And everywhere, humans worked with purpose and organization. Varric transmitted a partial report before the humans detected him. He never transmitted again. Cirith read the report 3 times. Then he called an emergency meeting with his command staff. "This changes everything," he told them. "The humans have not regressed. They have rebuilt. They have cities we never detected, production capabilities we never imagined. This is not a primitive species waiting for integration. This is a threat." His staff was skeptical. "One hidden city proves nothing," his second-in-command argued. "Perhaps a few thousand humans have maintained some organization. That does not mean the entire species has recovered." "Then explain this," Cirith said. He displayed a map showing the location where Varric had disappeared. "Our scout vanished over supposedly empty territory. That means the humans have developed a capability to detect and destroy our drones. That is not primitive. That is coordinated military action." The argument continued, but Cirith was done waiting. He sent requests for more scouts, for military reinforcements, for anything that would help him understand what the humans were doing. The collective denied most of his requests. Earth was still not a priority, so Cirith used what he had. He sent every available drone to survey the planet's surface. He ordered his ground forces to increase their patrols. He began looking for patterns in human behavior that he had previously ignored. What he found terrified him. In the Alps, humans met in secret. Amara Okonkwo, Jin Weaver, Yusuf Hadid, and 300 other leaders had gathered in a stone cathedral that had stood for 1,000 years. Candles lit the massive space, casting flickering shadows on ancient walls. They had come to share what they had built. And what they had built was remarkable. Jin Weaver presented his spacecraft designs. 3 rockets sat in hidden shipyards on a Pacific island, nearly complete. They were ugly machines, all tanks and tubes and mechanical systems. But they would fly. "Guidance is the biggest challenge," Jin explained. "Without computers, we must navigate by the stars, using optical telescopes and mechanical calculators. Human operators will make adjustments in real time. It is crude, but our tests show it can work." Yusuf Hadid displayed his weapons. Pneumatic launchers that could fire bolts through Vethrani armor. Chemical grenades that burned at temperatures no shield could withstand. Grounding cables designed to pull floating platforms from the sky. "We have distributed these designs to every continent," Yusuf said. "Workshops everywhere are producing them. When the time comes, we will have millions of weapons ready." Amara Okonkwo reported on the communication networks. Drum signals, mirror flashes, runner teams, and mechanical telegraph systems connected every human settlement on Earth. Messages could travel from one side of the planet to the other in days. "The Vethrani see none of this," she said. "Their sensors look for electronic signals. We use no electronics. We are invisible to them." The gathered leaders shared more innovations. Biological research that pushed human capabilities to new limits. Chemical medicines that could heal wounds in hours. Training programs that produced soldiers who could fight hand-to-hand against Vethrani warriors. 5 years ago, they took everything from us, Amara said. They expected us to break. Instead, we remembered. We remembered that humans survived ice ages and plagues. We remembered that we crossed oceans in wooden ships and reached the moon with mathematics done by hand. We remembered that technology is not circuits and processors. Technology is knowledge applied to problems. And knowledge lives in human minds. She paused, looking at the faces around her. Scientists, engineers, farmers, soldiers. People from every continent, every culture, every background. United by a single purpose. The Vethrani made one mistake, she continued. They thought our tools made us strong. They did not understand that we made our tools. We are the builders. We are the inventors. We are the species that looks at the impossible and asks how. They cannot take that from us. No one can ever take that from us. The cathedral erupted in cheers. Jin Weaver called for silence. We have the weapons. We have the ships. We have the networks. Now we need the plan. He unrolled a map of Earth and the space around it. A red dot marked the Vethrani communication relay orbiting the moon. This is our target, Jin said. The relay connects Earth to the collective. If we destroy it, Sirith cannot call for reinforcements. His garrison becomes isolated. We can fight them on even terms. 3 rockets, Yusuf said. Only 3. If they all fail, we lose everything. Then, we do not fail, Jin replied simply. The planning continued through the night. Every detail was discussed. Every possibility was considered. By morning, they had a complete strategy for the liberation of Earth. The attack would happen simultaneously across the planet. Hidden human armies would strike every Vethrani installation at once. The timing would be coordinated not by electronic signals, but by mechanical clocks, all synchronized months in advance. At the same moment, the rockets would launch from the Pacific Island. 2 days later, if everything went according to plan, the Vethrani relay would burn. We have one chance, Amara told the assembly. If we fail, they will know our capabilities. They will bring the full force of the collective against us. We will not survive. Then we do not fail, the gathered leaders responded, echoing Jin's words. They dispersed to their continents, carrying the plan in their memories. Nothing was written down. Nothing could be captured or decoded. The attack would come as a complete surprise. Sirith received reports of increased human movement across the planet. He did not know what it meant, but his instincts screamed danger. He requested permission to launch a preemptive strike against suspected human gathering points. The collective denied him again. You are overreacting, they told him. The humans are primitive. They cannot threaten us. Focus on your integration duties. Sirith ended the communication and stared at the blue planet below. Somewhere down there, humans were preparing something. He could feel it. He just could not see it. And by the time he finally understood, it would be too late. The day of liberation began in silence. Across Earth, 8 billion humans waited. In cities and villages, in mountains and valleys, in hidden workshops and secret bases, they watched mechanical clocks tick toward the appointed hour. No electronic signals passed between them. No radio waves betrayed their plans. They waited in perfect and visible coordination. Commander Sirith woke to alarms. His monitoring stations were going dark. One by one, across every continent, the towers that watched humanity fell silent. He rushed to his command center and found chaos. What is happening? He demanded. Unknown, Commander. We are losing contact with ground installations. No signals, no data, nothing. Sirith pulled up satellite imagery. What he saw made him grip the edge of his console until his fingers hurt. Humans were attacking everywhere, all at once. In Lagos, Amara Okonkwo led a force of 10,000 against the regional monitoring station. They came with crossbows and chemical grenades, with pneumatic launchers and battering rams made of solid oak. The Vethrani guards activated their shields against energy weapons that never came. The humans threw grappling hooks instead. Slow-moving ropes passed through shields designed to stop bullets and lasers. Once inside, the hooks caught on equipment and walls. Thousands of humans pulled together, and the shields meant nothing against the simple physics of force and leverage. The tower fell in minutes. In Houston, Jin Weaver directed an assault on the largest Vethrani base in North America. The aliens had fortified their position with automated defenses designed to stop electronic attacks and energy weapons. They were useless against humans, carrying mechanical crossbows and clay pots filled with burning chemicals. The fire was old technology, ancient technology, but it burned just as hot as it had 10,000 years ago. Vethrani soldiers emerged to fight hand to hand. They were stronger than humans, better armored, trained for centuries. But there were so many humans. For every one that fell, 10 more took their place. And the humans had prepared for this moment for 5 years. Yusuf, Hadid's makers, struck in the Middle East. Their pneumatic systems launched grounding cables at floating patrol platforms. The cables wrapped around the hovering craft, and teams of humans pulled them down from the sky like fishermen hauling in nets. Vethrani, soldiers on the platforms, found themselves surrounded by humans with nothing but wooden clubs and determined eyes. The battles were brief and brutal. Sirith watched his empire crumble. His forces were scattered, his communications disrupted, his defenses useless against weapons his people had not used in a million years. He ordered his remaining troops to fall back to the primary base in Antarctica. Then he saw the rockets. 3 pillars of fire rose from a Pacific island. Chemical flames painted the sky orange and red. The rockets climbed slowly, so slowly compared to Vethrani vessels. They left trails of smoke that stretched from horizon to horizon. "Intercept them," Sirith ordered. His few remaining spacecraft moved to engage. They destroyed the first rocket easily, their weapons vaporizing it in a flash of light. The second rocket took damage but kept flying, its mechanical systems too simple to fail from anything short of complete destruction. The third rocket dodged. Its human pilots, watching through optical telescopes, made tiny adjustments to its course. Without electronic guidance, the Vethrani targeting systems could not predict its movement. Their weapons missed again and again. 2 days later, the second rocket reached the communication relay. It was damaged, barely functional, leaking fuel from a dozen holes. But it did not need to survive. It only needed to arrive. The impact was silent in the vacuum of space. The explosion was brilliant. On Earth, Sirith received the notification. Communication with the collective was severed. Reinforcements could not be requested. He was alone. His remaining forces had gathered in Antarctica, the last Vethrani stronghold on the planet. 5,000 soldiers and 24 spacecraft. Against a planet of billions, a mechanical loudspeaker crackled to life outside his base. The sound came from vibrating membranes and acoustic chambers, technology so primitive his sensors had not detected it. "Commander Sirith," Amara Okonkwo's voice said, "we have destroyed your relay. You cannot call for help. Your installations across the planet are in our hands. Your soldiers are surrounded." Sirith walked to the observation window. Outside, in the Antarctic cold, he could see them. Humans. Thousands of them, dressed in furs and carrying weapons that looked like they belonged in a museum. But he had seen what those weapons could do. "You have 2 choices," Amara continued. "You can fight. Your soldiers are strong. They will kill many of us. But we are 8 billion, and we will not stop. Eventually, you will lose. Your species will learn nothing from your deaths, except that humans are dangerous." She paused. "Or you can leave. Take your ships and your soldiers and go back to your collective. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that you stripped us of everything, and we built it all again with our bare hands. Tell them that Earth is more trouble than it is worth." Sirith looked at his tactical displays. Red zones covered every continent. His ground forces had been overwhelmed. His air superiority meant nothing against enemies who hid in caves and forests. He could kill millions of humans, but he could not defeat them. Not without reinforcements that would never come. He thought of the 17 species his people had pacified before. None of them had fought back like this. None of them had adapted. None of them had looked at impossible odds and refused to accept defeat. "What are you?" he whispered. The loudspeakers seemed to hear him. "We are human," Amara said. "We make tools. We solve problems. We refuse to give up. You took our technology, but you could not take our creativity. You could not take our determination. You could not take our humanity." Sirith gave the order. His ships rose into the sky, carrying his surviving soldiers. He looked down at the blue planet one last time. He had spent 5 years watching humans, studying them, trying to understand them. He understood now. They were not like any species the collective had ever encountered. They were not just intelligent. They were creative in a way that defied prediction. They were adaptable in a way that made them impossible to contain. They were stubborn in a way that made them impossible to break down as his ship climbed toward orbit. Sirith began composing his report. It would contain one clear recommendation. Earth. Do not engage. On the surface, humans emerged from hiding. They stood in the ruins of Vethrani bases and watched the alien ships disappear into the sky. Some cried. Some cheered. Some simply stood in silence, unable to believe it was finally over. Amara found Jin and Yusuf in the crowd. The 3 leaders who had started as strangers in the darkness had become the architects of humanity's liberation. They embraced without words. 6 months later, Amara stood before the first graduating class of the new University of Lagos. Behind her, a machine hummed. Half mechanical, half electronic. Humans had rebuilt their technology, but this time they built it differently. Every electronic system had a mechanical backup. Every computer had a manual override. Never again would humanity be vulnerable to a single attack. Jin Weaver led the new space initiative. His mechanical rockets had proven that humans could reach the stars without electronics. Now they would build better ships, faster ships. Ships that combined old wisdom with new technology. Yusuf Hadid's makers had become teachers. In every school on Earth, children learned to build with their hands before they learned to use machines. The skills that had saved humanity would never be forgotten again. They came to break us, Amara told her students. They removed our technology because they thought technology was our strength. They were wrong. Our strength is not in our machines. Our strength is in our minds, in our hands, in our hearts. We are the species that looks at the impossible and finds a way. She smiled at the young faces before her. The future of humanity. They forgot one simple truth, she said. Humans do not use tools because we are weak. We use tools because we can imagine them. We can create them. We can improve them. They can take away everything we have built. We will simply build it again, better than before. Outside the university windows, spacecraft rose toward orbit on pillars of fire. Human ships, built by human hands, carrying humans to the stars. The Vethrani had wanted to teach humanity its place in the universe. Instead, humanity had taught the Vethrani something far more important. Never underestimate the builders.